right, Sam. Very excited to talk with you about your journey in the program. You've had such an amazing past couple of months. So thanks for being open to sharing with everybody your experience.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Sam joined her coaching program. What was it? Like March, I guess, of this past year.
Maybe.
Yeah, and
Right.
March or April, one of those two, and you've had such an amazing transformation. So, before we get into that, can you just fill everybody in about where were you when you first started coaching? And I know there's a little bit of backstory on you getting immersed in the workshops and things before that too. So maybe talk a little bit about interactions, just for everybody who doesn't know, Sam and I met. Sam was my hairdresser. I still think of you as my hairdresser, even though you don't do my
I
hair.
am your hairdresser.
You are my only hairdresser for the rest of time. But we met through the salon, and then we just clicked and got connected ever since then. So yeah, Sam, just talk about the beginning of your journey.
So, was doing your hair. I was always a very I don't want to say anti, just not being open to people wanting to help or I don't know, community things. I wasn't very big into it because I'm a very solo type of person. But when I started doing your hair, I wanted to give the classes a try, which that was, I feel the best thing for me because it was my first time being nervous to do something. But I feel your yoga class was literally the first non-intimidating yoga class I've ever experienced because it wasn't commercialized. It wasn't it was just gals there to just have a good time, kill an hour doing something they enjoy and hang out with each other and go home. It was really cool. Started with that, and then the workshops on your Friday night workshops were saving grace. Got really into those, and I told everyone about them that I worked with, all of my clients, and some of them actually showed up. So that was cool. And I was like, you know what? Let me bite the bullet and give it a try. And I actually am really happy that you did your free 7-day thing because, and I think I've told you this before, I never understood what you did. I never understood your job title or whatever. And people would ask me all the time, who's that girl that you started working with or that you reference on your page? And to be honest, I don't know. You're gonna have to talk to her because I was I think she's a hypnosis voodoo doctor, just talk to her. So yeah, I was finally, I feel you kind of gave me a really safe space to feel comfortable giving things that I normally wouldn't try. I always contemplating trying therapy and, this and that. And something that never sat well with me is just calling a stranger, someone that I don't connect with, and venting in a sense. And I was okay, well, I have a dog or a boyfriend to do that with. So I never really felt doing a traditional, let's chat and conversation. And I think that's why I was so drawn to the workshops, because it was more out of the box, doing things that were more mind, body connective, which I feel I resonated with that a lot more because I did do prior to more meditative practices, chanting practices, things that I've gotten into in the past. And then kind of always had a hard time practicing, then falling off and creating those habits, which I think everyone has a hard time doing. But I feel when I kind of started working with you, I was building that daily practice of okay, I can make time for this every day. And I felt odd enough, even in everyday choices or little things of when it was oh, I'm going to sit down to eat dinner, but let me be conscious of being present with this, or just little things that I wouldn't normally be more aware of. I feel I was always very self-aware on a lot of maybe my unhealthy habits or the reason why I do things, but I always had a hard time deciphering or changing okay, I do this for this reason, but how can we fix it? And I feel I became more aware of those little points of okay, small things of how we can fix it. And I feel subconsciously I wasn't even realizing it, but doing that stuff every day or reading the books and making conscious effort to even just to read. Even though I don't want to say it was a forced feeling, but having the work to do in front of you when it's like somebody else gives it to you, it just like makes you, okay, I have to sit down and do this. And like, I have to make time for this because someone else, it's almost like that expectation thing, but like in a positive way. Cause it wasn't like, I'm just making a choice to do it on my own, because I'm like, yeah, I always wanted to be a person who reads, but I never picked up a book, So like, that's something else that was like super helpful with it too, like giving little practices and pushes for me to do things that I always wanted to do, but like never really was like, oh, I'll get to it later, or, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that accountability aspect that
Mhm.
pushes to the
That's the
next
word.
level. Yeah. And sometimes like that's like borrowing belief, right? It's like when you don't have the kind of energy to do it for yourself, you do it for somebody else for short term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns into you doing it for yourself,
Yeah.
like where you're at now, which is so beautiful. But tell everybody about like what you were doing when, obviously you were doing hair when we met, but I think that I think it was my first appointment with you, and we just got talking about like, I was talking about moving, you were talking about moving, we had this like commonality of like, we don't want to live in New Jersey anymore.
Yeah.
Is all this stuff. So talk to everybody about like where you were at with that.
So it was our first appointment, because I think like, especially with the whole year, like during COVID, I was so busy, and I'm grateful that I was so busy because a lot of people obviously weren't. And prior to this backstory, I was living in different countries. I was doing Peace Corps work prior after high school. I really found my place, I feel like, in the world and what I wanted to do. And obviously one thing leads to another. And maybe that's not ultimately what you finish out with, or you try different things and move on to different experiences. Long story short, I wound up doing hair, which is great. I love where I work. I love my boss. She's like super awesome. I do work for her just to work for her. Like, I never wanted to work anywhere else. And I'm a creative person, so it was like a great outlet for me to express creativity, but still having like a stable job. And obviously hair is always needed. But during COVID, we were like so crazy busy. And I was like having that itch. I hadn't gone anywhere in like years. And for somebody who after high school was used to just bouncing around and like never being home, and feeling really fulfilled in the work that I was doing and purposeful, I kind of fell off that of like not feeling purposeful, or realizing like, okay, things that I'm meant to be doing, like something felt that like, this isn't it. It's great, but I don't feel connected to the work that I'm doing. And I feel like toward the end, I was talking to everyone about like moving, and like everyone kind of always knew this about me. Anyone who knew me prior always knew this about me. And it kind of was just like, yeah, I'm going to start planning on leaving. And when I started working with you, I started like, you talk about the whole manifestation or the alignment thing. I never understood it. Like, not that I didn't believe in it. I just never understood it. No one ever explained it to me. No one ever taught me about it. So feeling that connection to someone, and I think which is weird that you always spoke about it, because I always felt connected to what I was doing prior. And then the work that I was doing here, it's mindless. It's great. I'm good at it. It's an enjoyable hobby, but I don't have that like connection to it, to that service or that type of art. And then I started working with you and putting into practice with everything, and writing in a journal, which is also something I never tried. And I was like, okay, is this like corny? I'll write in a journal, like a diary. That's what I thought it was. I'm like, yeah, I'll write in a diary, I guess. And I was like, oh, this is like kind of nice, because funny thing is, I had a book, like a journal book that somebody gave me a long time ago. And during, I don't want to call it like, we'll call it like depressive times, I guess, I would write sad things in it.
Yeah.
But it was the only journal I had. And when we started with the group lessons, I was like, oh, you were like, pick up a book. And I was using my phone for notes. But then all the girls were like, it's so nice to write on paper. So I just like grabbed that book. So as I started doing the app and the program, it was nice to see that the transition of my pages become more positive and more things that I was like, you could tell my excerpts in the beginning were pretty short. I didn't know what to write. I was like, woke up today, feeling okay. Like, I didn't know what to put in the book. And then I started writing more detailed things, just because I was like, let me just be open to say like, okay, woke up, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Let's just like write it down. And I feel like my progression, and almost like it made me more aware of things just by putting it down, kind of like when people say you remember it when you write it down.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that like awareness to a lot of like my emotional states, or like mental stability, it helped me get a hold on things when I always felt like chaotic or felt something but didn't really understand why, because then I was able to revert back, listen to what I'm saying, and be like, okay, this is why you're feeling this way. You don't have to be like confused. Um, so yeah, that was like super helpful in the sense of like prioritizing what I need to be doing, and take the work, I guess, like a step further than just having a diary. Um, so I think that's when I was like, you know what, like these are great tools. And it was always reverted back to, I think that like I'm so self-aware, I know what the problem is, but how do we fix it?
Yeah.
And you were giving me like all these like little tits and tats of like tools to be able to use, which is great. And I think ultimately that's what helped me say to myself, okay, if you're going to make the changes, I'm a very like all or nothing type of person.
Yeah.
I have a hard time transitioning, very slow. I like things, and I like, it's like that concept, if you want it now. Which of course you teach that that's not how it happens, but um
It's not that
I
it can
definitely,
happen quickly, right? It's the
yeah,
expectation.
you can't just give
It
it
did
to us
happen very quickly for you. You know, you have super
surprisingly.
fast turnaround. It's just all about the expectation.
And I think that's why, though, it happened so quickly, because you gave me the tools to be able to say, okay, if you need to prioritize yourself, you need to make the choices too. And I feel like so many of us, and even prior to you, you'd make little choices of things that you think you need, whether it be take your small breaks, or do something you enjoy to help you get out of your funk, or whatever it is. But sometimes that's not enough, and you need like that kick in the pants. And I feel like that's what you were for me, is like that kick in the pants that I kind of needed to make the bigger choices that everyone's just like scared to make. And
Right.
which is weird, I've always been that person prior. Like I've always been that person that was like, make the choice, leave the country, join a group. I was always a solo traveler, always someone who I woke up and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go here tomorrow, let's pack a bag. And that was me. And I feel like over time I kind of got scared as I got older to do that anymore, because you get in a routine, you get comfortable. And I look back, I'm like, I used to be so like ballsy. I used to be so brave with
Yeah.
things, my life and choices. Like I'd never felt like worried about, well, what am I going to do for money, or connected to like, what about my things here? Like I never was like that. I think over time, just getting comfortable in one place, I loved change. I was so adaptable to change. And I think as things were pretty stagnant, I got used to it. So then, luckily I was able, from your classes, to be able to like jump out of that and like start shifting. Okay, let's integrate some change back. Let's do some things that we normally don't do, and push yourself to do things that maybe you don't want to do or make the time for, but like practicing to prioritize myself and knowing that these things are necessary. And yeah, so started just making some bigger choices of things that like I wanted to do, and now
Yeah.
we're transitioning to a move myself.
Woo! Yeah, it was like all about reconnecting you to the self that was already there. Like you had this authentic version of yourself that was like carefree, was called to different places, was so artistic, and all of that, transitioned into you feeling a little bit stuck because of different things that we had to work through and process. And something that really stands out for me in that reconnection to yourself is the vulnerability aspect of like you allowing yourself to be seen. Like I remember during the challenge and even during the classes, like for you to show up, and I remember the first yoga class you took, you're like, I have not done this in I don't even know how long, like, or trying out the workshop, like, yeah, like I can't touch my toes, but I'm here. And you continuously showing up being like, this is really uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or I've never talked to anybody about this thing in my life, but here I am anyways.
Yeah.
And you making that choice to be seen in spaces and places and situations that made you uncomfortable and pushed you out of your comfort zone ultimately allowed you to reconnect to that more authentic version of yourself that was already there, because we were working with that version of yourself that was like, you're like, yeah, like I want to feel how I felt, super
Yeah.
connected to myself and to the community around me when I was doing this in my life or when I was living here. And as we began to dissect these pieces, and then also, okay, so what's your limiting belief here, and work through those things, so many things started to open up for you so quickly, right? Like, I mean, I remember our first hair appointment too, you were telling me about your business and how you're like, yeah, like I've tried it a couple of times, but
Yeah.
like, and it was all about the alignment. It was like, let's strip away all of these layers of yourself that are holding you back from experiencing abundance and full alignment. And really, like, as far as like strategy goes, did anything really change other than the work that you were doing on yourself?
No.
And
Just giving myself more time, probably.
yeah, giving your,
Just giving myself more time.
yeah, you fell into this regimentedness, and it prevented you from living in more alignment and in more peace and in an energy of abundance and like receptivity. It
Well,
was
that's the thing. You always talk about like putting your energy into different places, and all my energy that I wanted to put into my work and my things and myself, I was putting it elsewhere. So I didn't have enough. Like you always talk about like filling your cups, and I didn't have enough. And I was just like, I need to give myself more time. That's all I needed was the time. But
yeah,
obviously you have to sacrifice other things to give yourself more time because there's only so much in a day.
absolutely. And it's
You
all
know?
like a scarcity mindset attracts scarcity. And so if you're trying to build something out of scarcity, you're not going to really, I mean, it's rare that you will succeed with that mindset. And so the
Yeah.
minute you shifted and like did less, honestly, like you were not going to the gym as often, you were not
Yeah.
spending hours meal prepping, you're not doing all these things, you were giving yourself more time just to be and to sit and to write more and to be present. And that's when all these things opened up. So talk about your business and talk about this big move that you're doing. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, so even like the idea like around time, you were just talking about like the meal prepping thing in the gym, and obviously that's something that's always been like super pressuring on me, like to be so important. um I feel like I still do those things now, but I don't have that mentality of being like so strict around it, and being, because I have all this time. So
Mhm.
now it's like, great, I don't have to pressure to get it crunched into 10 minutes and give myself more anxiety and more pressuring and more expectations that I'm going to fail at because I only have 10 minutes, you know. And now I have more time, so like I'm super conscious, like you always tell us, like take your breaks. And now like building upon my business, I make sure like if I'm not feeling that creative flow right now, like don't push to feel it. Just like if it's not there, do something else. And then like we can always come back to it. Like it's not going anywhere. And I was always super pressured for whatever reason about wasting time. Like so nervous that if I didn't get enough pieces done, I, you know, they wouldn't sell. And like the mentality of like success translates to dollars is like not true. And like, as I create my things and whatever and go through it, I'm like, I have something to be proud of, and it's on my own time. And like knowing that I took my time, and all my stuff comes out better when I don't rush, and when I really create something that like is for me, that comes out when I really feel it, and not something that like I just threw together because I'm rushed and whatever. Um, so businesses is rocking. I do macrame, kind of home goodsy kind of stuff, as you know. I'm doing tons of markets now, which is a lot of fun because I'm so much more of like an in-person type of gal anyway. Like I enjoy, being with people, even though I love doing this because it is by myself, and I do like to have like that time spent alone. I enjoy doing hobbies by myself, but it is nice to have like that connection to community and like that meeting people, and even like being with the other vendors. Like it's so nice to be like, my first market, I was like so nervous, and everyone was so nice and like so supportive. Everyone's like, oh, it's gonna be great. Like everyone has the same type of energy, like that creative,
Yeah.
artistic energy, and they're all there for the same reasons, and they're all there to like, one up each other and help each other and support each other and like encourage each other. Like can't tell you how many people like would see me make a sale and they'd run over and they'd be like, oh my God, so awesome. Like I'm like, wow, this is so nice to like, I was Queen Fair. I go to all of them, but you never see that. Like, you just think, oh, great, they're selling stuff at a table. But it's nice to have that. Like, it really is like a business artistic community. It's like really cool. So I'm doing a lot of those right now, I guess, till the end of the year, because usually a lot of them are outside. So once it gets cold, I guess they'll kind of all transition more back to like a lot of the online stuff. But I'm still doing the online stuff. Um, which ties into me transitioning, going to Costa Rica, a place that I always felt connected to. It's some place I always talked about. It was actually the first solo trip I ever did. When I was 16, I did like a service trip there, which then later on spun into me going to Peru, doing service in Peru, traveling to different places, living with different people. So I think I love Peru, but it gets too cold. So I think my next best was my connection to Costa Rica, and something I always hope to do. And I think that's where the alignment thing comes into. I always wanted to create my own program, and I didn't know what it would be. And I figured someday I'll meet someone that will help me transition a program, or I figured I'll get my foot in the door with one that I've been working with and maybe integrate it, because that's what I tried to do in Peru and it didn't work out. I tried to integrate a program into one that already existed and it just didn't work. It was learning experience and good takeaways, but like you kind of said, maybe it wasn't the right place, maybe it wasn't the right time. And as I've been building with this, I'm realizing and oddly meeting a lot of people in Costa Rica that do macrame and are macrame artists, alongside talking to a lot of different people that I met that own their own programs that don't include anything like an art program, which is something the type of program that I want to start. So I'm kind of seeing like an opening for me to jump into a lot of places through the connections I've been making. And I feel like things are kind of presenting themselves in a really weird way of like meeting people who are macrame artists. And I'm like, oh, that's so weird, because even in Jersey, I don't meet that many of them. And like meeting people who own these communities and these programs, started them, and they're my age and they're young, and they are like, oh, they all have the same mindset of like, oh, I wanted to do this one day, and I just figured this is what the community needed, so I'm going to start it. Things are a lot easier there because I think there's more of a necessity there for a lot of things. So I think the willingness of a lot of people to want to help and to participate is really great there, which is really cool. We have it here too. But I think that the connection there is a little bit better because it's a lot of things are seen on a day-to-day basis of people's needs and what they can bring to the community. And I think a lot of people have a lot of special skills and talents and things they can bring there. Plus my connection with nature and wanting to be outside all the time. And that's super important to me. Be surrounded by like people who are plant-based medicine practitioners and stuff like that is super abundant there. And that's something I've always been interested in. Maybe even incorporating that in some type of way. Eventually, I'd like to make the program on a big scale, but starting small, if I can get some people involved to be able to put it within the public schools or coordinate some kind of art program for like an after school is kind of like where I'll start. Don't know how, but we're going to give it a go. I just figure once I get there, I'll start somewhere and see who I meet, see who wants to help, see who can get involved or whatever, see where I can get involved. And I think that's like where I'm going to probably start and kind of just play it by ear and take it day by day.
It's amazing. I'm so excited for you. And it's just you talking about that, like the ability to serve in the way that you feel called to serve. What is amazing to me is thinking back to your coaching experience, the thing that opened up authentic opportunity of service for you that you were in full alignment with was your ability to step out of people pleasing. Because that was a big thing, right? Like just opening up your throat and saying what you needed to say and like defending your time and your energy and being like protective and more careful about, how you were spending that. That was such a huge thing. And you actually interjecting and saying like, no, I'm going to stop people pleasing. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to communicate my needs and have a voice in this opened up such a rich opportunity for you to actually serve and spend your time and energy the way that you feel called to, which is like just incredible and artistic and beautiful and authentic. And your entire life did like a 180 in literally 2 seconds. It was like you were full-time hairdresser and then all of a sudden you're full-time. I have such a hard time saying this word, macrame.
Yeah, macrame.
macrame artist and moving to Costa Rica. Like it was just like this, right? But the
Yeah.
vision was always there. Like when we started, that vision was like there the whole
Yeah,
time.
it's like I didn't know what it looked like, but it was, yeah. And I feel like that's where you like came in and gave me the kick. Because like you said, like I didn't even think of that honestly until you just said it. Like, yes, I was always like a yes man. I was always like, I always felt that people pleasing was serving, you
Yeah.
know, and I always was very adamant about do what you can for as many people as you can, because that's what we're here for. And that's what I always believed, especially going to all these places, like that's what they believe. You know, even if it's the more you have, the more you give, the less you have, the more you should still give.
Mhm.
And I felt like me just saying yes was give, 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 give. And it didn't matter what it was for. It was just, that was my best way of knowing that, no, this is me doing for others. But it was giving me the time to do, like you said, and I didn't even think of it in that sense, but, you know, obviously giving me the way that I want to serve and what serving means to me, giving me the time to be able to do that is like, it's nice to have it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're able to still serve, like, which is what you felt called to from the very beginning, but you're serving in a way that feels really good to you, that is in
Yeah.
alignment with your bigger vision and your calling upon your life. And it now is in alignment with where you want to live ultimately, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And so, I mean, your journey has just been absolutely incredible. And yeah, just one of the most quick turnarounds I've seen as far as your lifestyle.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, not all that happened within like 4 months for you. So there is no limit as far as like you know, and I think what's amazing is a lot of people when they think about such a radical life shift, they think of hustle culture. And in reality, yours was the complete opposite. Like you needed to step out of hustle culture and give yourself
Yeah.
time so that you could sit in the energy of abundance to receive. And when you're in hustle culture, like, yeah, obviously, like you're going to get stuff done because you're going, you're going, you're going,
Mhm.
but you're probably not going to be in alignment because you're so far gone that you're just doing, doing, doing. You don't have time to
Yeah.
process. And you're not going to be in the energy of like abundance and receptivity, and it's never going to be enough. And so for you, like pumping the brakes, saying no, doing less, traveling more, and like ultimately just giving yourself more time to be and to breathe and to experience peace and trying new things, like that was your recipe for success, not the whole hustle culture. You had to do the complete opposite. And so I
And I
think
think
that
that's when I stopped shifting, like, okay, success, it doesn't translate to dollars. Like I
yeah,
can work as hard as I want and I can make as much money as I want, but it's not gonna bring me ultimately to where I'm wanting to go or where I'm needing to be. And that's, I think a lot of times, like that's where I was prior. And I think I had such an easier time shifting because it kind of just brought me back to a little bit more of like a rooted feeling. It was a
yeah,
little bit easier for me because I feel like I wasn't trying to find something new. I was just trying to get back to kind of where I was, but in a different way, I guess. Um, and I think that's what it's almost like it shifted and it felt familiar. And I was
yeah,
like, oh, I'm comfortable because this feels familiar. But and I was always fine with making all those choices. And again, I think it was just that stagnance of comfortability and just being like, okay, this is good enough for now. And like even saying like, where do I want to go from here? And trying to pretend to be present of being like, no, this is fine for now. And not like, I think the idea of presence for me also shifted in being like, yes, it's for the now, but it's okay to have goals. And it's okay to, think about where we want to go. You don't have to have an answer. But at least have some ideas to have something to work off of that you want to create for yourself. And I think also one other thing that I want to touch upon that which was nice that you kind of gave me, you spoke about my vulnerability aspect and not wanting to be super open. I think being someone who does like to be alone, I do enjoy my space. I like to do my things and my experiences by myself a lot of the time. I've never been surrounded by a group. I've never been surrounded by a community in anything. I never played group sports. I was always like the artist. I always did it by myself. So I never had that team aspect. And I jumped on with you guys, and even between the classes on Fridays and jumping on with you guys, I feel like it helped strip away a lot of my issues with being vulnerable, being open, because everyone else is doing it.
Mhm.
So it kind of just gave you like everyone else's like energy of encouragement was just like, you know what, screw it, why not? Like, we're all here for the same thing, we're all doing the same thing. It was a very like, I know a lot of people say like this is judgment free, but it actually felt that way. It wasn't like, let's just say it because we want to say it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I think was also super helpful for me in the program, even just the few times that I was able to participate, and being in the group chats, and the Tuesdays, and the Zoom courses, and just to chat with the girls, or just to listen to the girls, even if I didn't feel like talking that day, just to be like, wow, people have the same shit, you know, we're all kind of going through it. And I always had a hard time like finding people who were similar to me, or maybe could relate or whatever. So it was nice to know that like it's not only me. And I think from there moving forward, when people would message me like, who's this girl or whatever, like, I'm having this issue, what do you think? Like, I'm like, don't know how to explain it, just give it a try.
Yeah.
Like, because it's difficult to explain, and I think everyone is subjected to their own experience. You know, without the influence of somebody else, because this is something personal. It's hard to say, well, my experience is bad or my experience was good, yours is going to be good too, or yours is going to be bad too. It's so different per person. I think you also teach independently per person, which is different. Like you said, for me, I was not in a hustle mode. I needed something else. Like, I needed a different recipe. So for that is like really special too, because it's hard to have a one size fits all for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's so different. I love that you brought that up. It's like, you know, your journey to get into alignment is different than somebody else's. And it is just beautiful when we can fully embrace the bio individuality of what our life and our journey can look like. And that's the whole idea behind like make your life your medicine. It's like your
Yeah.
life is going to be different than my life's medicine, and like it's okay. Like, we're all on a different journey, and we have to take into account you know, our unique set of circumstances, the uniqueness of who we are as a person, and just come into alignment with that. And that starts by us getting to know ourselves at a really deep level. So if you were to say something to somebody who is on the fence about coaching, like what would you say to them?
Sign up for the 7-day thing, because it'll tell you everything you need to know. I feel like really it did. Like, I didn't even do the whole 7 days, and I never understood what you did. I swear, I was like, I don't know what the hell she does. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand her job. I don't. And you were like, I'm a coach. I'm like, yeah, but that still doesn't give me a description. I don't know.
Still.
Exactly. And also, I feel like, would I work with another coach? I don't know. I feel like I connected with you on a way that made me feel comfortable. So I feel like for anyone who would want to, you know, see the connection, you owe it to yourself to see through at least the connection. Because I think that's like how you were talking about earlier about your acupuncturist and working with people with energy, like how you want to know prior.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, it's not even something I was searching for. Like, I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I just did your hair one day and I was like, huh, I feel like that kind of came to me maybe at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, so in a sense, just try your best to maybe not even be open to coaching with someone, just be open to starting the connection and seeing what you want from it. And I think a way that you work is so helpful and customizable to each person, where you don't have to feel, and I've told this to everyone, lots of people have asked me, and I think because I always was always a pretty open person, just having conversation with people, and people constantly ask me, and I was like, you know what, she's no commitment, give her a try, you're not going to go wrong with it, and it's something that you can only benefit from, you know what I mean? It's not going to suck up much more of your time. It's not going to make you feel like it's something you have to do for something you want to do. But if you're asking me, chances are you're looking for something, you know? And I think that just the way that I was able to connect with you was something that for me was super important. I think starting this process. And I do have friends that go to therapy and stuff like that, and to each his own, if that's, you know, how you want to work forward with it and everything, that's great. But like you said, everyone's different. So for me, just being open to starting that rapport, or just making that connection as like the step one would be, because that I feel like was for me. Like I said, I was not somebody who was like looking for this, or, you know, hesitant. Not that I was hesitant about it, but it was just not something that I was looking for. And I think just that initial connection is like really all I kind of needed.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty cool. And I think just your little bits of easing me in and creating the different spaces between the yoga or the Friday night classes, and showing me like there's community and there's different types of community, and we have it here, which something I also never seen, you know. And then I had friends even, you know, message me, and they're like, I've been looking for this kind of community. Like, where are you going? Where are these videos from? Where, you know, where do we have that here in Jersey? So it's cool to see that reaction too, of like, hey, you don't have to start off with committing your heart and soul to something if you're not ready. But there are ways that you can kind of integrate yourself, little bits here and there, to see if it's something that you want to move forward with, like, and start processing more into depth in the future, which was super helpful. So for me, just that initial connection was like more than enough. And I feel like that would be something that I would recommend to anyone.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. There are so many ways to get plugged into the community. And that is like the overall vision of SomaSonder, is to like come into the community somehow. Like, do you want to move? Let's move. Do you want to change your life through coaching? Like, let's coach. Do you want accountability? Like, let's get you plugged into accountability Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Like all these different, you know, kind of like streams out of the main vessel. And so I love that you highlighted that, because that is the bigger vision, is to just cultivate community and just like welcome everybody. Just everybody needs to have a place here, and the bigger vision. So thanks for sharing that. Welcome. Thank you for sharing all about your journey. I'm like, could not be more excited for your next chapter here of like full time with your business and moving to Costa Rica and starting new, and just lots and lots of abundance.
Scary stuff, but we're gonna do it.
Sometimes the scariest stuff is the best, though. You know, it's like that's the excitement. So I'm excited to visit you in Costa Rica.
Well, thank you for having me through this process.
It's my pleasure. It was truly a joy to work with you in this way and to expand our relationship outside of the salon chair. So
still your hairdresser.
You're still my hairdresser. I will fly to Costa Rica to get my hair done.
You're gonna have
to. Oh, Sam, thank you again. And
thank you.
If people would like to find your artistry, where can they find you and maybe purchase some pieces? Because they are
I was gonna say, I don't have my sign here. But on Instagram, it's the Indie Blue with, it's 1 U. But I think on my handle it might be 3 that you have to type in. But it says like macrame artist, fiber art, and I have my Etsy on my page. So thanks for everyone to support my little projects. You see this one, lots on the page.
Everybody wants to see the princess.
Of course.
Obviously, she's so cute.
She's
but if you do want to check Sam out, I just pulled up your handle. It's the Indie Blue, TheIndieBluu. Check it out, because Sam, your stuff is just absolutely beautiful. And I know it's made with love and just such pure and authentic intention. So definitely excited to see your next chapter. And again, thank you so much for sharing with everybody.
You're very welcome.